It's the 8th of March 2019. I'm David Griffin and I'm here in the beautiful surroundings of Grindleford with the Derwent Valley behind us, and I'm talking to
Michael Willis.
Michael, thank you very much indeed for joining us today. Ostensibly, our prime reason for being here is to talk about the famous or infamous snow day.
Yeah.
For anyone who doesn't know, the 2nd of June 1975, a book's been written about it, but snow stopped playing. Up to that summer, that was the hottest summer on record.
Yes, it was, yeah,
in 1975.
Yeah.
So to have snow in June was quite remarkable. But before we come to that game, can I just ask you where your cricketing journey began?
Yeah, my cricketing journey starts like many's does with your dad. My dad used to play for Buxton. We used to go and sit on the sidelines watching games. Eventually, when he came to an age, we played at school in the days when school cricket was quite a big thing. We had about 5 teams. The school would put
Which
out.
school was this?
This is Buxton College in
Right.
Buxton. And then we gradually began feeding into Buxton Juniors, which was run by Brian Jackson, the ex-Derbyshire fast bowler. And through that, then gradually you fed into the second team. Rarely, in my case, the first team, but quite often the second team. But certainly I remember on one occasion I banged on the door, and it was a couple of mates of mine who played the first team, and they picked up my tray with my dinner on, and I sat eating stew in the back of the car driving to Hale Barnes to play because they were a man down.
Really?
So I was a filler-inner at the higher
They're
level.
classic club cricket stories, though, aren't they?
Well, yeah, no, it was great fun from that point
Yeah.
of view, and we used to play a lot of those grounds around Cheshire and Manchester League and one thing and another. Then, 7 years ago, I moved out here to Grindleford. I played cricket for Grindleford on and off all the way through that period of time. I still play for Grindleford at 60. I played last season for a few games. We'll play this season. Through that, my son plays cricket for Grindleford, and my daughter's played cricket for Grindleford. And indeed, she's the best of the bunch. She actually played briefly for Derbyshire girls in her early teens. So that's really my history.
So a bit of pedigree or interest at least throughout the family.
Cricket's, we love cricket.
Yeah. So in terms of watching cricket,
Yeah.
because we're going to come to the fact that you were at the game against Lancashire in 75,
Yeah.
did you watch Derbyshire regularly? Because of course at that time Buxton was a regular
Yeah,
venue
I played
for
for Buxton,
Derbyshire.
Ilkeston. I've watched them play at both of those places. Rarely actually at Derby, occasionally at Queen's down at Chesterfield as well.
What made you go to Ilkeston from here? Because I'm from Ilkeston, so it's a long journey to...
One of my close mates lived in Ilkeston.
Right.
So usually...
Lovely place, I always thought.
Lovely
to watch
ground,
cricket.
as indeed Buxton is to play cricket on a nice sunny day, and I appreciate the rain and the snow is a bit of a problem. But so we tended to watch often the Derbyshire Lancashire games, obviously at Buxton.
Yeah.
I remember watching Derbyshire playing the West Indies touring team down at Chesterfield against where they got Roberts and Holding and all the fast bowlers. And I remember Alan Hill, who's a local boy, was opening bat for Derbyshire, and we all went to watch Viv Richards and Gordon Greenwich, and he stayed in all day. We never got to see any of them bat whatsoever. But it was good to see the big famous fast bowlers working. Yeah.
So who were your favourite Derbyshire players at that time? You mentioned Bud Hill, who of course was a Buxworth boy, wasn't he?
He was a Buxworth boy. Obviously, Jeff Miller was a great fan because he was a variety player. You know, he did a variety of different things, which was always good. Some of the fast bowlers were obviously excellent and were good. Brian Jackson was before my period of time, but Brian used to come on the fondest stories of what it was like in the days when you went out and had a job, and then at the weekend you played for Derbyshire and you got £5 or whatever it was going to be, in spite of the fact that you got many wickets and one thing and another. As to actual individual players, to be honest, no particular individuals. I've just always like Bob Taylor because he's a character, and a characterful wicket keeper. Perhaps if he could have batted a bit better, he might have. But you know.
Well, Alan Knott was
good at both, wasn't he?
Yeah.
In relation to that, and I'm trying to think of the fast bowler's name now. I can't think. The guy just lived not far from Ilkeston.
Mike Hendrick.
Mike Hendrick.
Yeah.
You know, in their day, they were as good as anybody, weren't they? And you know, everybody likes a fast bowler.
Well, I think that mid-70s, early 70s, because we're contemporaries of each other, and it was just the pre-Eddie Barlow days. And,
yes, of course,
and Wright and Kirsten and what have you, and it was just that side. It got some really good players. You think that Miller, Taylor and Hendrick were all playing Test cricket.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we're just waiting for those younger players because it was Tunnicliffe, Hill, Boris.
Yeah.
to sort of make their mark. But they were a side of an interesting. So Mike Page was one I always used to like watching.
Right. Yeah.
An interesting player. So let's go to the 2nd of June 1975. How old would you have been then, Mike?
I was 16.
Right. So had you been to the game? Because on the Saturday, the game began, didn't it? Did you go to the first
I'll give you a
game?
bit of history about it. Because we like cricket, we played for school. We had a teacher at school called Elvid Evans, who was a Latin teacher, played cricket for Buxton, avid cricket, coached the teams. And combination of him and Brian Jackson, Buxton Juniors, we were given the opportunities, not just for this game, but we actually did quite a few games when they came to Buxton, of being runners and ancillary groundsmen, if you like.
Oh, really?
So the job was, in the pre-mobile phone day, that we actually, as schoolboys who enjoyed being at cricket, we ran between the scorers, the press box, or press tent as it was in Buxton, passing information on, because there was no other way of doing it, and you can't always see the scoreboard and one thing and another. So that was the primary role. Now, previously, not this game, because I don't think we actually did much to try and rectify the pitch in this game, but the other thing we did was, when it rained, in previous games, I think the year before, it had actually rained quite heavily in relation to that. It was all fairly unsophisticated, of laying towels down, running over them with a big roller, banging through the mangle. They did have a squidgy machine eventually at one point.
Because it was uncovered pitches still,
It was uncovered pitches, yes. And there were some drainage holes around the pitch in Buxton where you'd squeeze out your towels and you use your mangles. But that was our role, which we were more than happy to do.
It's unbelievable talking about towels and mangles.
Towels and mangles, yeah. And it quite literally was, you laid your big, like a bath towel, drove the roller over it, banged it through the mangle, laid it in front of the roller, and you did it that way. It was almost inevitably a waste of time in Buxton, but yeah, so that was the sort of role, and that's why this particular game, yes, we were down to be there all days. We were on the run up to doing our O-levels, but certain things have to...
And it would have been just after half term, presumably?
Just after half term.
It would have been the week before,
yeah,
wouldn't it?
School said, well, these teachers, the teacher Elvid said that we could wig off. I think we're actually on revision time then, on the run up to our O-levels. So myself, a couple of mates, John Poffin and Nick Smith, we all played cricket for school and Buxton. We were all down there in this sort of semi-official roles as runners, and
how
what was up.
It'd be really important,
absolutely, because you did feel important, and it was exciting because you got big crowds always used to come to Buxton, because Lancashire's just over the road almost, and people used to come down, and it was a good fixture on a nice day. It was a lovely ground on a nice day. So that was the reason why we were down there. On the 2nd, the Monday, we'd been there on the Saturday. On the Monday, I actually cycled from my mum and dad's house where I lived, about 1.5 miles from the other side of town. I actually went down on my bike because it wasn't a bad morning.
Well, can I just take you back to the Saturday? Because on the Saturday, I went on the Sunday to the John Boy League game. But on the Saturday, Lancashire, in those days, the first innings was restricted to 100 overs.
Yeah.
Or it was 200 overs over the 2 innings, so you could use up the other overs.
Yeah.
The team batting first inning. And Lancashire made 477
they did indeed,
overs, which is amazing today in a first class game.
Yeah.
But then it was absolutely unheard of to go at nearly 5 and over.
Yeah.
And of course Clive Lloyd got 167 not out.
And who else would you want to see but Clive Lloyd?
Absolutely. Do you remember anything of...
to be honest, I don't particularly remember anything about the Saturday at all.
Do you remember anything about the weather on the Saturday?
Well, the weather was okay. There certainly was no problem with the weather.
It was dry, wasn't it?
It was dry. And of course the 1975 summer, from memory, I think was when Virginia Wade won...
That was
77, was it?
The 75 was the first World Cup.
That's
and
right.
not one ball was lost.
That's right. The weather was good overall, wasn't it? So I can't particularly remember what the weather was like on the days before, but certainly on the morning of this particular game, it was all right. And I cycled down with no wet weather kit or anything, because it never dawned on me or anybody that it was going to start.
Though there'd been, I don't know whether it had been forecast. I don't know whether forecasts were particularly of any value.
It seems to have taken everybody back completely by surprise. I certainly can't remember, because in Buxton, my granddad always used to say Buxton's a top coat colder than anywhere else.
Yeah.
And, you always went with your coat, your
But the Sunday game against Glamorgan, there were lots of runs scored.
Yeah.
It was dry.
Yeah.
well, when we were kids, you always wore t-shirts, didn't you? You
No,
didn't feel the cold.
yeah.
But I don't have any recollection of it being anything other than
No.
an early summer's day and pleasant.
And certainly on the Monday, I can't remember anything that led me to believe what was going to happen was going to happen.
Was it cold?
No. So I went down on my bike.
Right.
You know.
So what time did you get to the ground, Michael?
We got to get there for about 9 o'clock. Didn't really do. We milled around really, but you know, you were told.
Who would have been on the ground then when you got there from?
Well, there were a group of people. Brian Jackson was clearly a connection because Brian was very much involved in relation to it. There were a number of members of the senior members of the club, Alan Burgess and Peter Cockram, who were captain and vice captain of the teams. They were very much involved, and we were just sort of allocated. You know, you three stay with the scorers, and your job is to run over there with the scores and bits and bobs on paper, and anything that needed running around really, because you had commentators there as well. Because I remember Jim Laker was there.
Really?
Yeah, because I know that because I've got him in my autograph book from that particular occasion. And you know, meeting these people was quite an exciting event, and you know
of course, Dickie Bird was one of the.
Dickie Bird's umpire, yeah.
Dusty Rhodes was the other one.
That's right.
Harold's father.
Yeah. So you know, these were great people. Of course, Lancashire was the best team probably in the country at that time.
Well, I checked the scorecard. 7 Test match players were playing for Lancashire.
You know,
in that game.
You got Farouk Engineer. You got all these people. And,
both Lloyds were playing.
Both Lloyds.
Frank Hayes, Barry Wood.
They were a great team.
Peter Lever.
Yeah, well, got fantastic
bowler.
He did. And was allegedly supposed to have bowled within himself to make it not quite so hostile on the following day. But so that's why we went down there to do that, to fulfil that particular role. And then, of course, what was surprising was my memory, obviously, it was frozen hail that came down first. Yeah. Heavy frozen hail that whitened everywhere.
And this is before the scheduled start.
Before the scheduled start, and then gradually it turned into very heavy snow, and it was deep too. That was the bizarre thing about it. Everybody piled into. You tended to have the old pavilion, and then there was a tent alongside that, beer tent or whatever it was. You had the score box, you had the main pavilion. But of course, everybody sat in the open, basically, 1,000 feet above sea level.
So, how many people turned up? Because presumably players turned up. I assume.
The players turned up, and you know, you got your hard card, but we're talking hundreds, not more than that. And there's very limited places under cover that you could go to at Buxton at the best of times, because the pavilion, I've been in the pavilion, is not much bigger than this. Well, a couple of times bigger than the conservatory, but. So yeah, then the snow just lashed it down. It just absolutely lashed it down. Everybody's seen the famous photograph and things like that. The guy in the duffel coat and all that sort of thing. We, from memory, as I say, we got no coats, nothing particularly in relation to that. And I think everybody was just gobsmacked that this was actually happening around us. But from the reason why we were there, the running around was actually nothing at all we could do. You can't get any of that off with a towel or anything like that. So it was just a case of waiting. And the irony was, by sort of mid-afternoon, it had all gone, and it was the sun came out, and it was a nice afternoon again. And I cycled home later on.
But not fit for play that afternoon.
Not fit for play, no, because everything was wet and one thing and another. Although I think Buxton does drain quite well as a ground, so. You know, it wasn't too bad. The following morning, the Tuesday, we were there early again, and I can't remember we actually had to do a great deal to the ground before play commenced, and obviously Derbyshire didn't.
Well, they'd been 2 down, hadn't they, on the close of play on the Saturday?
That's right.
And then they were bowled out, basically lost 18 wickets in the day, didn't they? Quite cheap.
And I think in some ways that sort of led to Buxton having this sort of dangerous, not well kept, because of course we didn't have professional groundsmen. They were all done by amateur players and one thing or another who did all the stuff, and I think they always did a fantastic job. But I think that just sort of set this seed that Buxton wasn't a very safe place to play, and of course ultimately the games ceased in relation to that. But whilst the snow was falling and we were around, I took the opportunity of getting autographs.
Oh, so who did you get?
Well, I got all the big players. I got Clive Lloyd, I got Bumble, David Lloyd, the other Lloyd, Farouk Engineer, Bob Taylor. They were all there, and they were all quite happy to do it because everybody was just sort of laughing and.
Yeah. I don't suppose they could believe what they were saying, although I guess you're coming from the north of the county, you must have had some kind of, from time to time, dodgy weather.
Yeah, well, certainly you can never, Easter's the demarcation point. Easter's late this year, but you can't expect it not to snow until after it, or stop before Easter, but never have I known it snow in June, and certainly not in the context of playing a game.
And I think in the history of county cricket, there's no record of it.
No.
I mean, we had some snow at Derby, I think, in late April or early May, a couple of seasons ago.
Yeah.
It was just a little flurry.
Well, you find, starting playing in April, you play in some pretty horrible conditions anyway. It's cold, it's dark, it's miserable, but not snow.
The reaction was amazing because I'd gone back to school on the Monday, and on the Tuesday morning, it was my sister who said to me, "Have you seen the front page of the paper?"
Yeah.
And it was before CFAX, teletext, and we had no idea. You waited till the following morning to see what the cricket score was, and the front page of one of the national newspapers was snowed off at Buxton. It became a national story. Yeah. Were you aware of that at the time, or was you just laughing at it?
Yeah, because I remember, it was a big thing in the Buxton Advertiser, which came out on the Wednesday, so it was in the local paper, and of course, having been there and actually seen the snow, we were all talking about it at school, because this was quite a big event. We were cheesed off, to be honest, because actually watching the cricket was what we were there for and being part of it. We were aware, or certainly I was aware of it being a national event because it was such a unique, bizarre thing to have happened, really.
And I'm interested to know if you've met anybody else, because you said you had your pals from school with you, but we've not. I mean, I talked to loads and loads of people about cricket generally, and obviously we know the players and the umpires were there, but it's very rare you come across anyone who says they were there, because of course adults who went there, often county cricketers, county championship spectators, were pensioners, older people, so of course they're long gone.
It always used to strike me it was a dangerous pastime because they'd all sit round, we've all seen it, sit round at games with their blanket over their knee in their deck chair, often not taking direct notice of the game. You think in the present environment, the way the ball's hit now, it would be lethal, wouldn't it? In those days, I can never remember seeing anybody actually getting hit with the ball or even nearly getting hit with the ball. But it was certainly, perhaps it's a pity in some ways, I didn't think, because Nick Smith and John Palfreyman, who are old friends of mine, one lives in Buxton still, one lives up in Wakefield. They were part of this group of school lads that went down to help, if you like, as we did to all the games where we could get out of school to do so.
Well, fabulous recollections. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us.
It's interesting to remember it all.
Michael, thank you very much indeed.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.